Hey guys, Walter Fedczuk here to tell you that Unikrn.com may be the world's premier esports betting site, but they're also your best bet for keeping up with all the esports you love. With their site's newest update, they've reinvented their Live Now system and created a TV guide style layout to find out when your favorite teams will be playing next. And if that isn't simple enough, they've even added a search bar to help filter it down even further. And you know, even if you aren't a gambling fan, Unikrn's newest update is a must-have for any esports fan. And you might even discover your favorite new writer in their news section. We've got my man Drowlin with some excellent CSGO content, and you can find some fantastic articles from my lovely co-host, Chase Wassenar, as well. So check out the new layout at Unikrn.com, because there are few places where you can stay up to date on all your favorite esports, and Unikrn can help. Unikrn.com. Welcome to the new Sportsbook.
Hello, Internet. This is Chase RedShirtKing Wassenar, and welcome to the 2017 NA LCS Semifinals Guest Alliance podcast. That is right, Semifinals. Walter, they don't know what you mean by that yet. We're going to get into this. There is a team here that Walter is very excited to talk about, and there's a team that Walter is very excited to talk about for an entirely different reason. But it is worth noting...
There's 3 teams I'm very excited to talk about for entirely different reasons.
Yeah, last week was a fun series of quarterfinals. I think we got a lot of close matchups. I thought both series had some really fun moments. I think regardless of what team you were a fan of, but we know what team you're a fan of. My good friend and co-host, Walter Ceades Fedczuk.
It's
Walter,
not like I'm wearing the shirt or anything.
Yeah, of course not.
I basically sleep in this thing nowadays. It's the only thing I wear if I'm not at work. Not really. I wear a bunch of different t-shirts.
You know what's great for video content? Black on black. Love it. It's a great tool towards making sure that you look like you're a floating head with some TSM ghost spirits kind of just writing their lettering across your body.
What
Look,
can
man.
I say? There's a joke in my family that's the only color that we know how to wear is black. Because if you look at like any formal event, we're going out for like my parents' anniversary or somebody's birthday, like 9 out of 10 times we're all wearing gray or black. It's just what Fedczuks wear. It's weird, but that's just kind of our thing. We're always dressed to go to a funeral, apparently.
Look, I call myself the Red Shirt King, and as a couple of our viewers have pointed out, I have never worn a red shirt on this podcast.
I don't think you have.
I technically wore one that's like a burgundy, but we're getting into semantics, and we're missing out on the teams that we need to talk about.
We are here for a funeral today, actually, though.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I don't know if anybody watched the end of the Europe episode, but hi, Cloud9 fans.
Yeah, let's just go for it.
Are you ready?
We don't need to pretend like there's anything else that's we're hiding behind. Cloud9 did indeed lose to Dignitas this week. If you read my article from Unikrn on that, you would have known that was something I thought was very much a possibility, something that I think we could see coming in just how Dignitas was coming together and how Cloud9 was seemingly moving in the other direction. Walter, before you get into the gloating part of this,
that's fine.
Were you expecting this? Was this where you thought this series was going to go, or what surprised you here?
I definitely thought it was going to be a close series. I thought it was going to be a strong, hard-fought series. I thought that the sort of cohesiveness and, I guess, veteran experience out of Cloud9 would win out, and I thought that at the end of the day, they had the better playmaker on their roster. And if there was ever a time, like we can go back to the summer finals and we can talk about Jensen missing the R on the Echo, and that's what loses in that series and what loses in the finals. We can go back to that. This was
I will, for the record.
Go ahead.
Will go back to
go
that.
ahead. It has no bearing on what happened this week, but this was the ultimate. Statistically, Jensen put up fantastic numbers. He looked great,
yeah,
but he disappeared. There was not a signature Jensen moment, I think, in any game in that series. I don't think there was a signature Cloud9 moment. I don't think anyone on Cloud9 showed up. They just sort of existed. And maybe I'm just forgetting game 2 and how exactly game 2 went, but like it felt like just like 5 random people showed up wearing Cloud9 jerseys, and they played 4 games, and that was the end of it. It didn't feel like Cloud9. It looked like them. It sounded like them. They had all the names and, like, you know, all the cheering, and there was all the fans, you know, cheering for Cloud9 and all that jazz. But I don't think they got off the bus. Like, I'm pretty sure Jensen was at home taking a nap the entire series. Like, I'm flabbergasted because I want to be very cocky and arrogant. I like, yeah, stick it to Jack. Cloud9's awful. They didn't make it out of the quarterfinals. This is great. I feel so vindicated because this literally proves every point that I've been trying to make over the past, like, year and a half about Cloud9. And, like, it's just one occurrence. Like, yeah, Walter, you're forgetting they were in the finals and were literally 1 R press away from winning a championship last spring. Yeah, but this entire moment, this series right here proves everything I've been saying for about a year and a half about some of these players. And it's like I'm kind of cocky about it. I'm kind of smug about it. I'm kind of like, all right, Cloud9 fans, here it is. All the trash I've taken from you, here is it coming back. I know Karma's going to get the better of me, and TSM is going to get 0-3'd. And, you know, that's reality. But at, like, the same time, like, it was a massive disappointment. Because let's think about, like, SKT versus like, Rocks at Worlds. They lose to 2 years ago, they lost in the finals against each other. And then you had the semifinals matchup against them. And it was still a really good match. And Chase and I were there in New York for it. It was awesome to watch. Yeah. Like, that was what I was expecting. I don't know if any of you are wrestling fans. You watch New Japan Pro Wrestling. Okada versus Omega is like that. Like, the first match was really good. The second match was even better. Like, that was what I was hoping for out of the semifinal. But I think all the, like, subtext, all the plot lines, everything has kind of been set for this just Cloud9 disappointment. And the final kicker was just Jensen didn't show up. He didn't do the Jensen plays, and when your team is pretty much down to Jensen's our only guy that can really pop off outside of statistics and can actually make some plays and can actually win a game, and our entire strategy is around him winning the game for us, and when he just doesn't, and I don't know if it's anything that Dignitas did, like, special to shut him down or to, like, hold him down. It's not like Keen was doing weird counter picks or anything like that. It was just Dignitas had a better team, a better cohesive 5-man unit, and Cloud9 didn't, and their star didn't show up. So it's kind of it was like milquetoast. It's sad, but I'm kind of smug about it at the same time.
Yeah, I will say, first of all, I'm not letting you get away with that reverse jinx you tried to pull on TSM. Like, oh, we're gonna lose 0-3.
I don't know what you're talking about.
How dare you? I see through you, Walter Fedczuk.
I don't know what you're talking about at all.
I'm not. Yeah.
No idea.
No one is falling for that. But I will say, I think that Jensen did what he could in a lot of cases. I don't think that this was like Jensen didn't show up, like he was like this just non-factor. You look at, you know, game 2, he has that great engage around the 33-minute mark, you know, brings it back, at least keeps them alive as they fight off what was going to be just this push directly into their base. Their game 1, it had the exact same thing where they need this, like, miracle stop, and Jensen was the guy who was leading that with the Cassiopeia. I thought his game 3 Lucian was great.
Yeah, that was game 3. That was what I was thinking about.
The problem is, why are they in a point, like, all of Jensen's great plays came with, like, man, we're super behind and we need Jensen to step up, and he did. But why are they so far behind in the first place? And to me, that has less to do with Jensen and more to do with all of the other problems that we've had with Cloud9 over the split. Neither of us thought that Sneaky was this awesome AD carry. We've seen people in the comments. We've seen people on social media. You see people, analysts. You look at the votes that Sneaky got on the All-Pro Awards. There are a lot of people who believe that Sneaky is this guy that should be commended for all of these great moments. And, like, Sneaky had... You know, he had an all-right game in game 3.
He's hit the last year of Dwayne Wade in Miami, like, level of his career, where he's still there because he's, like, the veteran that's always been there, but the stats aren't backing up his contract that he has. It's not backing up the nostalgia factor for him anymore.
He can do it. He can get to that old Sneaky level, like, once a series, maybe.
Dwayne Wade.
Like, he can hit that point. It does happen. But, like, this is something that I think people miss sometimes, is that for a player to be washed up or not, kind of, they're varying degrees, right? He's not washed up. He's not, can't do anything right, but he isn't the guy that he once was. He can be that guy. He'll have moments where he's that guy, but he can't do it game in and game out. And part of the reason that Cloud9 had such big problems in this series is Alltech crushed him in lane. The 3 games that Dignitas won, Alltech was winning those laning matchups, and that's a huge problem because we knew the top lane of Cloud9 had problems. We knew that Impact was going to really struggle against Someday, and we knew that Cloud9 just had no trust in Ray. And if you want to look at where Cloud9's going next year, the fact that Ray did not play a single game this series tells you everything you need to know about whether
he
he's
hasn't
coming
played
back.
a single game since, what, week 6?
I think they're done. I think Cloud9 has seen everything they need to see. Contracts, I think, did well enough. I don't think that he, blew me away. I don't think he did poorly. Can you build a team around that Contracts Jensen combo? Is that a building block that they can look at? Throw in Smoothie, who has at least had some great games every now and then. Are they a couple pieces away, or is this a systemic problem? Is this as long as Cloud9 keeps to this play style, there are limits?
It's twofold here. It's twofold. One, I think Contracts and Smoothie are great supplemental pieces. Totally think Contracts is fine. I don't think that series was much on him, as it was like Shrimp just is a new god and makes me happy in more ways than I don't think man can comprehend. And even though the Nocturne didn't work out, and even though Caldo, who's an analyst for them, said, no, we meant to pick Nocturne, and maybe it was supposed to be a Nocturne, maybe it was supposed to be a Nunu, and it was just a misclick. He was fun. I don't think the series is Contract's fault. I think he's a good role player. The problem is Cloud9 needs a second carry. They need a star to pair up with Jensen's Russell Westbrook. Jensen can't do it all himself. And this has to be the moment for Jensen, where not only does Cloud9 look at it and go, okay, like Jensen can't do it all, he has to look at it and go, how did Bjergsen get better? Because statistically, he's better than Bjergsen. He puts up better laning stats, but at the end of the day, Bjergsen's the more successful laner. So what is Bjergsen doing differently than me? What is Faker doing differently than me? What are all these successful mid laners that I might be as talented at and maybe a little bit more talented than? What are they all doing and they're being successful and I'm not being successful? This is where he has to go into the metaphorical gym and he has to look at himself and he has to start reinventing himself, because he's proven over the course of his career that he cannot solo carry a team to a championship. When you think of Cloud9 when they won championships with Jensen, it's because the team around him has been so good. It's because he hasn't been their only carry. He's had impact. Thinking back to last summer, right at the end when they made that run into the playoffs and get into the finals, that was impact just going off on Gnar and all of a sudden being the strong carry presence. We do have these moments where Sneaky does pop off and you have a reminder of the Sneaky of old. Like, he has to go into the gym, and Cloud9 have to go back to the drawing board as they construct this roster for spring, because I think if they get to Worlds, they're getting to Worlds as a 3 seed, and they have to play in the play-in, and like maybe by being a power region team they make it through, but like this doesn't look like a team that's going to do anything at Worlds. At least not to me, unless there's some major.
I don't think. I'm not ready to give them the gauntlet. Like I'm
just saying if they get through the gauntlet and they get to Worlds, like I'm not saying they're a shoo-in to get to Worlds. I'm saying if they get there, like there's nothing that they've shown this season that makes me think they'd be like a sneaky, like they'll sneak their way into the playoffs. Like no, they're gonna get, they might beat, if they're in a group with a wild card team, they might beat that team, and they're probably gonna get their butts handed to them by everybody else. Like this is twofold. It's they need to get another playmaker, but they also need to reinvent themselves and pull away from this Jensen is our super carry, Jensen's the star, Jensen's going to do everything, and start talking about how do we either how does he make the players around him better? How do we get better players around him? Da-da-da-da-da. So I think it's twofold in that regard.
Yeah, I think that you hit it on the head when you talk about just how much they need that second carry. I think that is the biggest thing that they're missing. And to some extent, I don't know if it's, the chicken or the egg here, whether it's, they don't have the secondary carry because they're so busy focusing on Jensen, or that they're focusing on Jensen because they know they don't have that second carry.
That's fair.
I'm not sure what the answer is, but if you look at Jensen right now, if he's asking that question, like, what does Bjergsen have that I don't have? It's TSM scouting department. Like, TSM grabs Hansser for Bjergsen, and life got so much easier. They grab Biofrost, life gets easier. They grab Double Lift. Like, they keep grabbing these pieces one at a time that makes Bjergsen's life so much easier. Whereas you look at how long has Sneaky been on this team? How long is like Impact now? Like he's been showing that kind of wear and tear, but they didn't go get a guy like Hansser once those signs came in. They got Ray, and we got to give him credit for at least trying in that regard. But unfortunately, it didn't work. And so now you're at this point where, well, you have to replace Impact. I think you have to. I don't think you can go into 2018 with the top lane in the state that it's in.
No.
And as now, Sneaky might be a great supplementary piece for another team, but it really feels like Cloud9 needs a secondary carry, and the 80 carry position is the easiest place to get it. So what do you do then? I think that this is an organization that has some tough questions to answer, and I hope that nothing in the gauntlet, whether they do well or whether they do poorly, stops them from answering those questions. Because if Cloud9 is going to get to their old glory point, the team that you and I know they can be, a rival that TSM respects and that has this prestige and everything to them, you do whatever you want. You can pretend that you don't care, but
No, you're right.
they need to answer these questions, and we know Cloud9 is capable of it. But this Ray thing really backfired, and I think that they held on to Sneaky a little bit too long. And I think that the pieces, as they are currently assembled, there is not a happy ending for them, and that's why you lose 3-1 to a team like Dignitas, who do have pieces that fit together in a puzzle and create a system, which is such a weird thing to say given what we know about Dignitas just historically. We're going to move on before my head breaks, but let's talk about Envious. Envious is the other team that lost this week, a team that we expected to lose. I don't think that we were shocked by the result.
I was.
Got there.
I thought they were going to get blown out of the building.
Of course we
Holy
did. Look at how they did the last 3 weeks. They were terrible. They went 1-5 in the last weeks.
They've got something special there. I just they are a top laner, and I think like another split, like a good split with like Licorice as their top laner, away from being a really damn good team. And maybe not. Maybe it all falls apart. Maybe Niski takes a step back. Maybe this was an aberration from Apollo and Hakuo. But in all honesty, like this team could be dangerous if they can just get a fifth player. Like I'm gonna be that cruel. Is that Seraph? He has his games. He has his moments where you're like, there we go. There's a good play from him, or he does his job. Like he gets away with it. But it's like DeAndre Jordan, like, he can't hit free throws. You can't have him in at the end of the game. Like, there's a huge hole in his game, and it's like, instead of DeAndre Jordan not being able to make free throws, it's like 90% of Seraph's game is this big hole. Like, think about how good this team would have been if they had Expect. I keep saying over in Europe, Expect is what we wanted Seraph to turn into. What if this team had Expect? Like, think about how good this team would have been, because that was the big weakness that CLG exploited in the entire series. Well, not the entire series. In the first game and the last game, when they finally woke up again, it was like, oh yeah, Seraph is bad at League of Legends. What if we just try to get Darshot a winning matchup and go from there? And then they're like, oh yeah, look at that. That works.
How did it take 5 games to figure that out? How was it until game 5?
Well, they did it in game 1. They did it in game 1. They did do it in game 1, and then they forgot about it for 3 games.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they really went after it in game 5, and the game was so much smoother for them when they did. I was screaming at my computer for games 2 through 4, trying to figure out what in the world was their plan.
I was laughing hysterically because it would have been awful karma for me to watch both Cloud9 and CLG go down in the quarterfinals as a TSM fan, because then there's a large chance that there's gonna be a new champion and it's not gonna be TSM, Cloud9, or CLG. Like, I would have been scared, and I'm still kind of nervous. Like, this is an interesting semifinal setup.
Yeah.
Like,
We'll get to the semis in a second. I do want to ask you real quick about Niski.
Okay.
Now, I don't want to use playoff performance to justify regular season awards, but I did have Niski as my rookie of the split for a reason. And even with that, I was blown away by how he performed in this series. Like, what changed that got him to that level, from being like a good, consistent mid laner for them to being this guy that was just this force of nature on the Galio and on the Corki in particular?
Well, I'm gonna put it this way: I don't think CLG like went after him. I really think they kind of like took a step back, and Huni was not was not the primary carry in this regard. He was more of like, they were putting him in like the Keen role of like, we're just going to put you on something you're comfortable with. You don't have to hard carry, but if you can make like 1 or 2 plays a game, that'll be fine. And they really tried to more focus on the making sure Omar God was comfortable, and I really don't know what CLG's plan was, because it just didn't feel like they were focused on making anyone like other than Omar God comfortable and like putting them in good lane. Like, this was one of the worst series I've seen out of Zikz, if I can be brutally honest.
Yeah,
this was an awful series from CLG's coach, and I'd rather focus on Envious, but like, I just think it was Envious had him in good matchups and good positions, and Envious knew they were the worst team in the playoffs. They had no pressure on them. They knew, like, yeah, like maybe we play in the gauntlet, there's a chance we make it to Worlds. Like, I think they just played really loose, and they just said, we have nothing to lose, so let's go out there, let's play our game, let's have some fun, let's make sure that we're in matchups, have a good draft, and go from there. And it showed, because you could tell that the pressure was on CLG in Game 4. You could really just kind of see it on their faces, see it in their playmaking, that CLG was kind of feeling like, we shouldn't be in a game, like, we should be cleaning up in Game 4 and like getting ready to go face Immortals. Like, we shouldn't have to play a Game 5. We shouldn't have to, we shouldn't have to play a Game 5. It's like when a 1 versus 8 seed happens in the NBA playoffs. Like, Cleveland should never go to 5 games against Orlando or against Miami. Like, it just shouldn't happen. They should get them done in 3, at the most 4, because they win 1 game at home. And Envious really took it to him, and it showed how weak CLG could be.
So it sounds like you're looking at this less as Envious taking a step forward and more as CLG taking a step back. That's what I'm hearing from you.
I do think Envious took a step. Like, I don't want to dismiss what Envious did. I don't want to dismiss what they did, because they played really, really well, and that's why I'm trying to front load all the praise of, like, they're a top laner away from being a really, really good team and a really dangerous team, as long as there's not regression from some of these players that, let's be frank, like, Apollo's never really been this like superstar all-star carry, and now he's kind of showing it, and I'm going to be afraid in my preseason episode about Envious that Apollo takes a step back.
It's okay. Like, you know why? He's not the carry in the bot lane. Hakuo is the carry in the bot lane. Hakuo
and was snubbed.
My love for Hakuo cannot be any higher. I put him first team for a reason. I just love watching him play.
He's great.
Like, I understand there was some limitation, and there is an argument to be made that Envious locked themselves in to a certain extent by playing only champions in which Hakuo had hook skill shots. Like, the Nautilus, you can argue, was maybe not ideal.
But that's a classic Hakuo pick. Like, that's a classic Hakuo pick.
And he played it well. He looked awesome this whole series.
Yeah.
Like, I think the winners, if you were to make a list for Envious, I think Niski is the biggest winner, because I think he elevated himself in terms of what tier people are going to put him in for 2018. I think he has established that he is an LCS
He's not a, like,
laner.
we look to upgrade this position in the offseason. It's like, okay, maybe we give this kid another split.
Yeah, he's getting an LCS spot. It would be criminal after what he did there to not look at this guy as a real player. Yeah. He's a guy that's going to grow, I think, over time, and I can't wait to see how that goes. But I think Hakuo has to be the second winner, because it really felt like this was a series in which
I think everybody went except Seraph.
We kept going from like, oh my god, I can't believe he hit that skill shot, like, over and over and over and over again. I mean, it's just fun. Are we a little worried about the fact that Lyra looked kind of mediocre this whole series?
No, because I think Envious wasn't relying on him to carry, and I think he is a hard carry player at his core, and he kind of was realizing, like, this isn't really the meta for me to hard carry. I'm not all that comfortable on just being like the initiator and peel. Like, I'm not worried about him because meta is secular. We'll have, in the spring split playoffs, it'll be back to like Nidalee and Leeson and Graves, and he'll be 12-1-17 in a game against the, LA Cosmonauts or something stupid like that, and go off and be like, oh yeah, why are we worried about Lyra? Like, I think he hasn't played on a team where he's had guys step up and be like, no, I got this Lyra, don't worry about it. Like, look at the spring. Like, he pretty much had to carry that team on his own. Look at him back in Korea. He really was like carrying teams on his own, and now he had this young European mid laner that's like, no, don't worry about this. I got you. You have this, journeyman kind of AD carry, this support that has kind of got this tainted reputation for being the guy that replaced Ramilia on Renegades. And like, they all said, don't worry, fam. Let us take care of it. And he kind of like stood back and was like, okay, all right, cool. I mean, what do you need me to do? So I'm very... I don't want to take anything away from Envious because they played amazingly. I'm very, very intrigued by them next spring. And do they make the changes that they need to make? Do they overstep and make too many changes? Do they just run it back because they got to the playoffs and they played so well? Like, I'm very curious to see what Astro and the rest of the Envious organization does here, because this could be a really intriguing team coming into next spring.
Yeah, I agree with that. I will say, I understand that Lyra is not a carry in this particular meta, but you're playing Omar God. Like, I expect a little bit more.
It's okay.
Like,
At least he didn't play Nocturne.
That's true. He does have that going for him. Do we want to spend 15 seconds on the fact that FlyQuest is going to be in the gauntlet and Envious won't because of CLG throwing away that series in the spring split?
I don't.
Okay, cool.
I don't, because it'll lead me down a profanity-laced rant that I don't want to edit. So
that's fair. We'll save future Walter some editing time then.
Don't worry, we'll have the entire Gauntlet episode where I'll just be cussing about FlyQuest being in this Gauntlet because, for reasons that, yeah, they earned their spot, I frickin' guess.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. It's fine. We're going to move on to games that are actually happening this week. And that first semifinals matchup on Saturday, Immortals versus Counter Logic Gaming. Now, you touched on this a bit. You mentioned you thought that this was Zikz's worst series as a coach. What specifically did you look at outside of just, you mentioned that, Omar God, they had to put on comfort champs, but the rest didn't feel that way? Like, what do you think they were trying to do that went so wrong here?
I mean, like, going back and, like, looking at their drafts, like, they were just trying to build, I guess, siege compositions?
Mm-hmm.
Which, I guess, like, yeah, Tristana's pretty good at that. Hui's champion pool, Vel'Koz, Victor. That's what they were building. They were just building, like, let's just push. And Envious is like, okay, we just want to fight. And, like, Jinx and Tristana are not the best team fighters. Like, they have the reset mechanic, which can snowball a team fight if it gets out of control, but they aren't the best team fighters. They really aren't. They can be very fragile and they can get exposed. And you have all, like, immobile mages with semi-immobile AD carries. I guess Tristana has the leap, but she still feels kind of immobile because you don't want to use the leap in the middle of a team fight. You want to use it to, like, chase down a kill. You don't want to use it to escape from a Trundle, from a Seraph Trundle or something like that. You want to use it to get the reset and keep going and snowball from there. It's kind of like Kog'Maw. Like, the more that you're moving around, the less your DPS is. And it just felt like Envious was just like, all right, you guys can set up sieges, but we're just going to run at you. Like, if there's one thing that Seraph is good at, he's good at flanking. Like, and they could be awfully timed flanks, but that dude finds an opportunity to flank, and he takes it. He's like, I don't care if I'm running into five members of the enemy team. I'm going to flank you. I don't care if I'm running into one member of the enemy team. I'm going to flank you. That's all he does, is he split pushes, and he flanks, and he pushes up lanes as Rumble. That is the three things that Seraph does in his career. And when you build a Siege composition, it's that blatantly a Siege composition when you're picking Jinx and Victor, or Tristana and Vel'Koz, and you're maxing W just to wave clear. Like you're telegraphing your strategy, and that's the only thing that they brought other than the first and last game, where they're like, all right, we're also going to put Darshan on this kind of split push threat because he's better than Seraph, and we only realized this 2 out of 5 games, and that's why this was a 5-game series.
Yeah,
This was so one note. It was so one note out of CLG, and they're not a one note team. I mean, they were a one note like team fighting team, but they did it in interesting ways. And like in game 4, why didn't you just bust out the Aurelion Soul? Or maybe it was banned. Maybe I need to double check that. But like, go.
It was banned.
Okay,
it was
yeah,
banned
so
in the second round of bans.
Okay, so it was banned in the second round of bans. But like, that's something that you're comfortable first picking for Hui. Like, that is something that you could pick at that, that third pick, and you could feel comfortable with it. And I doubt that Niski has a lot of experience with it. Like, it was extremely safe. It was we only prepared one strategy for this team because we think this is the best strategy against it. And it was uninspired. It was really uninspired from a guy that I think is pretty innovative out of the North American side, and I think is a really strong coach. It's just boring and unimaginative. From someone that I really respect as a coach, and honestly I think on par, since coaching really became a thing, has probably been the best coach in North America, for a very long extended period of time. So I was just really disappointed that in 2 out of 5 games they kind of looked at their clipboard and said, oh yeah, it's Darshan versus Seraph. Maybe we should exploit that. And it was only 2 out of their 5 games. So right. I don't know. I expected more from CLG. I really expected more from CLG, and they just didn't show up. They played down to the level of their competition. And Envious played up, but still.
When I'm trying to wrap my head around it, right, I think clearly CLG believed that they were going to be better at map rotations, that Envious could not keep up with the macro. And so they were going to have enough time to push these lanes, and they were just going to squeeze them out, and they weren't going to have to fight. Which tells me, when you combine that with the fact that they first picked their jungler in every game, I don't think they have any faith in Omar God. I think that this is something where they dropped Dardoch because they thought that this was, it was going to be better for morale. It was going to be this, they were going to be able to adjust accordingly and get someone who's more of a team player. And they're realizing that his champion pool is very shallow and he's not that great at it. And if you're a team fighting team and your jungler doesn't know how to initiate effectively, that's a huge flaw. And so they went for compositions in which they weren't going to do that. And, we like Stixxay a lot. Stixxay is a great player. I think that he can split push effectively. We all know that Darshan, formerly Zion Spartan, back when he was the split pusher, like, we know they can do it. And so I'm not surprised that they necessarily went that path. I do think it is criminal that it took them, over those 5 games, that they just didn't attack Seraph every game. That just seems like something I would have done. I think it's a huge problem that, like, even when Omar God did first pick, like, the Zac, it went really poorly. I don't think his Zac was very good. I think that's a concern, and I think it's a concern that, with Hui, they just didn't allow him, I think, to be the carry that he's very capable of.
They put him onto wave clear, just like, okay, play Victor and Vel'Koz. Like, why? Why, God? Why? Like, it's not like he's played bad. Like, he's played well all season. And here's one of those rare, Chase, you're the host, but I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Stixxay has just been, like, massively kind of forgotten about this split?
Not by
the fans and everything, but I just mean, like, even by CLG, where it's kind of just been like, he's there, but he's not. To me, he's the star on this team. He's the guy that has consistently over the past year and a half been the best player on this team. And it just it felt like a Han Sama situation where he's kind of just like, he just is there, and they aren't trying to accentuate his strengths.
I'll answer that question this way. Stixay has 24.1% of his team's gold. Huhi 24.6. So they are purposely giving Huhi a larger portion of their resources than Stixay, when I believe that Stixay is the more consistent carry and a carry that you get more efficiency out of than Huhi as a whole. And I don't want to take away from Huhi. I thought he had a great split. I gave him an all-pro spot for a reason. He got a very strong season. But it does feel like they have shifted a little bit away from him being this team fight. Like, we are going to let him be the god that cleans everything up, and we're going to put him on these lane bullies and just try to, pick apart Apollo. And maybe, this is where, maybe he just
but they didn't pick apart Apollo. Apollo and Hakuo crushed them.
Right, but maybe they looked into this game and they're like, we're not going to be able to crush Hakuo because we know that Hakuo is one of the best laning supports, if not the best laning support in the West. And so let's not go into that matchup, and let's instead focus on this split pushing. Let's instead focus on this greater macro play. And I'm not, I understand where they might come to that conclusion, but they came so close to blowing this series. Let's remember that in Game 4, they were dead to rights. They were behind by so much gold, and they ended up winning that series. They ended up winning that map mostly because Envious drafted a composition that had no damage. No damage on that. You had a Cho'Gath, you had Galio, you had Varus. You had no damage. They had Rek'Sai as your jungler. That is, in my opinion, that was the draft that killed Envious, because I think in every other way they executed in Game 4 better than CLG did, and I thought that they were the better team in that game, but they had that big fight around Baron and they just couldn't kill anybody, and they lost that game. And I think that Game 5 backs against the wall. I just don't think that Envious had that last year, but this could and should have been a 3-1 for Envious, and CLG should be terrified of that, because either it means they're not as prepared as you and I think they are and they're in trouble, or this was indeed their plan and it almost backfired horrendously, and I'm not sure which is worse.
And now they're against Immortals, who's a better version of Envious.
Yeah, can we talk about
glaring weakness?
Because you have not been a huge Immortals guy on this pod. We've had this conversation. You're underwhelmed is the word I would. Yeah. Are you feeling better about them now? Have they? Do you think that Immortals have done enough that you think they can just take care of business here, or do you think that it's going to depend on what CLG brings to the table?
I think it's a combination of that CLG looked awful against Envious, and that going back and watching film on Immortals, I do feel a little bit better about them. It's because outside of Ollie, they aren't flashy. I think that's part of it, is just they aren't flashy. Pobelter and Cody Sung are not flashy players. Flame is not playing like Fiora or Akali, and I remember Season 2 Flame where he was just murdering Dyrus over and over and over again, and just he's a very strong laner, but now it's the boring, Karl Malone is doing his, 2 dribbles into the paint, his 1 head fake to the left, and then puts up, a layup on the right side of the board. There's nothing wrong with that. It gets the job done. Though.
Let's not forget how many highlight clips he had on that Renekton in the first half of the split.
And
back when he was getting MVP talk, he was being that guy.
Yeah, no. That's fair. And just it just towards the end of the split, it's. I don't want to compare it to Fnatic or to H2K because it's not colored by the numbers with Immortals. I think there are more nuances to their games. But it's just this very kind of reliable, this is how this Immortals roster is going to play the game. And it just doesn't have the flash. It doesn't have the panache. And I don't think Dignitas has very much panache either, other than Nunu getting pulled out, which is there's more pizzazz there. I think Immortals are a very, very strong team. I think they cover up the flaws that they have pretty well, just kind of by sheer force of will. I think Xmithy and Ale die a little bit too much. Chase, I know that's kind of your big thing, is let me look at the deaths, and they're kind of
I am concerned. I have concerns about the death counts.
So, but at the end of the day, I'm looking at them against CLG. CLG, a roster that's changed their jungler to someone that I think is less mechanically skilled, even if maybe he fits the morale of the team better. That is a rookie, doesn't have very much stage/playoff experience, and going against a guy who, if you look at Xmithy, like, this is perfect for Xmithy. Like, I don't have to be a carry. I can just be an initiator and a ganker and a team fight kind of guy for my team. Like, this Immortals roster just feels like a CLG roster from a year and a half ago. Like, that's exactly what they're going for, is like, let's just be the big late game kind of team fight team. Let's play consistent. Let's roam around the map. Let's focus on objectives. And everything I've seen out of CLG the past 4 weeks tells me that they aren't equipped to fight against that team. And you can't just say, hey, let's put Darshan on Gnar and he's going to go beat up on Flame. I tell you what, that's not going to happen. That's
Go ahead and try CLG if you'd like. Like, feel free.
So, like, the thing that had them beat Envious was this glaring weakness of them going, Seraph is bad, Darshan is good. They don't have that against Immortals. So what, they're just going to bank on Xmithy and Ale just get caught out at really bad times and die? And, like, it's possible, but isn't it more likely that Immortals are just going to keep catching Omar God and Aframu and murder them? Like, isn't that just more likely to happen when they've been more consistent?
I mean, I certainly would find it a concern if I wasn't an Immortals fan. As an Immortals fan, I'm having a lovely time.
Of course you are.
These are the numbers. I was going back through and I wanted to find the stats that would illustrate what I think is going to be the difference maker here. Because if you look at how these teams play just from a team fighting standpoint, you look at very similar, dragon numbers, but the 3 stats that I think really illustrate it. Combined kills per minute. 0.78 for CLG, 0.77 for Immortals. That's first and second in the league. They play bloody games.
Yeah.
You look at the kill-death ratio. Immortals at 1.26, CLG at 1.24. Again, this is the whole team, not just the Omar God era.
Right.
But still, they're second and third in that regard. Only Cloud9 was better. So, bloody games, more kills than deaths, but Immortals were second in the league with a 58.1 early game rating. CLG were 7th with 46.5. And that is the massive problem for me, because if both teams are known for their team fighting, except CLG hasn't been as good at it ever since Omar God came in, and both teams are used to bloody games, but CLG hasn't had the same comeback mechanic since Omar God came in, and one of these teams is that much better in the first 15 minutes, that strikes me as a concern. As a CLG fan, I would be concerned. As an Immortals fan, as an Immortals fan, my only concern is that I have so few concerns right now. Like, that can't be right. It can't be this easy. It never is. I'm a fan of the team. So something's going to go wrong. Right. I just don't know what it's going to be yet. So
I'll tell you what's going to go. I'm going to tell you what's going to run. Chase, you're rooting for this team.
I know.
That's the be all end all.
It's a concern, and I have taken it into account. Where do you think the line should be, Walter? Do you think Unicorn took it into account?
I hope they did. I have Immortals at -200.
You get this one. This is a concern for me. I said Immortals -175. It is Immortals -192. So you get the square. Some smart money potential bets. -1.5 is +115 for Immortals. There is no plus odd for CLG that's going to get any value. 5 maps is +175. I think one of those has got to be what we're going to end up doing for that series. But
I feel better about 5 maps if CLG had played better in the quarters.
Yeah, it really... If you're a CLG fan, they gave you nothing in the quarters that tells you that they're going to be ready for how this Saturday series is going to go. But we're going to talk about Sunday's series now, which is Team Solo Mid versus Dignitas.
Either way it goes, I win, Chase. Either way it goes, I win.
I don't believe you, but let's start with the team that you'd be second happiest to see win here. Dignitas.
Ah, Dignitas.
Because we talked a lot about Cloud9, but I don't think we talked about what made Dignitas so effective in that series. What do you think made this team come together that, really felt like a project that they've been building towards for the entirety of the split?
Their team. At the end of the day, the way this roster runs, the way it's constructed, is it makes up for the weaknesses of each individual player on the team. Keen is not a primary carry. When you put that much pressure on him, he tends to fail. Okay, that's fine. Let us take the pressure off him early. Let's make him just be something that he's good at, which is just hold the wave, push the wave back. If you get that advantage in the laning phase where you have that time to go roam. But if not, just stay in the wave. You're fine. Someday has been... the constant pressure is being brought to him because he's the star on that team. Okay, let's pick more high pressure pushing lanes in our mid and our bottom lane so the jungler can't just camp on top. Let's have it so we have a more aggressive early game jungler that's willing to make plays, that's willing to invade the enemy jungle, that's willing to punish someone who's like, I'm just going to camp someday because that's Dignitas' only win condition. Shrimp, great early game. Invades, has kind of a funky champion pool. All right, let's build into that. Let's pick him Nunu. He wants to play Nocturne. Let's pick him Nocturne. Let's put him in a place to succeed and basically just tell him in the late game, let your carries do the work. Do things to enhance the carries around you, whether it's being a primary initiator, whether it's making sure you're just blood boiling Adrian. Adrian, if there's a winner from this Dignitas team from that series, it's Alltech. I didn't mean Adrian. I meant Alltech. Because I have never, ever in my life seen Alltech flash into the enemy team before. And there were like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times in that series against Cloud9 where they start a team fight and you just see Alltech flash on top of Sneaky and Jensen as like Twitch and just go, hi, and just unload. And every time he does it, I was watching watching with fans in Discord. You guys know it. I'm going, Alltech, oh my God, Alltech. And you guys were watching on YouTube. I'm watching on Twitch, so I'm 10 seconds ahead. And then you're like, oh, now we get it now. I've never, ever seen Alltech be like that. And it's because he trusts his teammates. He trusts the guys around him to keep him safe, to disrupt the team fight enough that he can feel confident enough to do it. I think a lot of that has to do with Adrian. Adrian is the ultimate... we have an AD carry that's kind of down on his luck. Let's give him to Adrian, and Adrian's going to get him back into peak form. Adrian's going to be a dose of self-esteem boosting energy and Janna one-trick play. And I swear to God, if anyone, including myself, ever calls Adrian a one-trick player or just a Soraka Janna player or anything like that, they need to take that thought and swallow it, because that is just not true. He has shown a versatility and a flexibility over, I'd say, the last 6 weeks that just... I know he can play other champions. I know he can play Alistar. I know he can play Leona. I know he can play the Janna, the Soraka, the Karma, all these kind of champions. But, like, what we've seen out of him since he got to Dignitas and since they paired him up with Alltech has just been revitalizing. And if there was, like, a comeback player of the split award, it'd be Adrian or Alltech this split. Like, they'd be splitting the vote down to, like, the last vote of who decides it. They were fantastic, and Dignitas finally found a bot lane that worked. They finally got it, and they finally matched it up with this core, and this is the difference between them and Cloud9 and what made them the winner at the end of that series was there's no I in Jensen, but there's a team and team, and there's a team and team Dignitas. And that's what happened. They were the better team for all 4 of those games. I truly think that game 3 was just that they picked Nocturne and they didn't play Nocturne correctly, because Shrimp, buddy, Nocturne's not a tank. Like, he's not. He doesn't lock up the enemy AD carry in like a circle like Jarvan does and force them to blow flash. Like, you just kind of jump on him and you spook them and they go, ah, dead. So yeah, if you're gonna play Nocturne, you have to play him as like, I'm going to blow up one of your squishy carries, and then I'm gonna die because that's what happens, because I'm playing Nocturne. I'm playing an assassin. But like, other than that, they were just the better team, and it has been a joy to watch them since like even like week 7 of last season when they made their run into the playoffs. Like, they've just been a joy to watch.
Yeah, no, this has been fun. It's a fun team to watch, and it doesn't mean that they're a perfect team.
Oh, absolutely not.
I think the one thing that I'm terrified about for them to go up against TSM is 25% for first 3 towers rate. Cloud9 was out-rotating them, even as Dignitas was winning all these early games, and their lane efficiency was rough 47.4% compared to Cloud9's 52.6%. They were making mistakes, but they were working so well as a team that when that mid to late game rolled around, when they had finally gotten going, when they had these moments where they could pick fights, they did so cohesively. I thought their target selection was awesome. I thought that they really understood how to pick apart the composition that Cloud9 did. And
Keen and Altec were always separate. They were always away. They were on the other side of like Dignitas' clumps in every single team fight. And whichever person Cloud9 went on, the other one punished them. And 9 times out of 10, they went after Keen and kind of dared Altec to be the one to punish them, and they really did. I'm sorry to interrupt you like that, but that was just one of those things that I noticed. Every single team fight, they were on the opposite sides of the team fight. And it forced, Impact and Contracts to go after one of them, and then the other one just cleaned up the carries.
Yeah, it's really nice when that works out. Now, unfortunately, TSM is in the other corner of this. As much as I'd love to just stay excited about all of these Dignitas things and look how they made up for it in all these other areas and look what they're capable of when they work as a team, they're going up against a team that has been a team and knows how to work as a team for over a year now. So, Walter, as a TSM fan, let's start with the fan. What do you expect to see from this series?
Holy God, we dodged a bullet. Holy God, we dodged a bullet. Holy God, we dodged a bullet. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. Thank you. Thank you for no Jensen revenge game. Thank you, God. Thank you so much. I don't know what we did to deserve this. We are the worst fans in League of Legends because we are arrogant and cocky little people. And but thank you so much for not having to have us. And as fans, we should be thankful we don't have to listen to this whole Jensen Bjergsen. Oh, but if he hit his R, what would have happened in the spring finals? Like, I'm glad we don't have to hear that narrative. It's awesome. Let's move on. As a fan, like, okay, like I think we can beat Dignitas. At the end of the day, I think that our players are. I think our bot lane is stronger than their bot lane. I think our mid laner is stronger than their mid laner. Top and jungle is... I think jungle's kind of a wash because Shrimp can have some really bad moments and can have some good moments. Fedczuk can have some bad moments. Can have some good moments. Someday versus Haunter scares me a little. But if there is one thing that TSM has proven time and time again is that when they have the time to prepare, they're nearly unbeatable in best of 5 series.
Yeah.
When you don't catch them off guard, which Dignitas hasn't shown really a propensity to do anything bizarre, I think this split. Maybe we get like a Camille or Fiora top lane pick out of like Someday. That could be bizarre. I think they kind of tipped their hand by playing Nunu and Nocturne, but they needed to because they had to beat Cloud9 to get to this position. Like, I don't know what Dignitas can pull out of their bag of tricks other than it's Keen. And they bait Bjergsen into, like, Taliyah, and Keen has some weird, like, Taliyah counterpick or some weird Syndra counterpick or something. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's TSM is the best team in North America and has been the best team in North America and has been to 9 North American LCS finals in 9 tries because they have the better players and they have the better, support staff, and they are extremely well prepared. And I think that's from top down. I think Reggie loves this time of year, and he enjoys going into that team room, listening to the coaches, pointing out things that he wants. Like, there is no way that he is not sitting back in that coach's area, that they're going to flash 30,000 times on screen, and he's not sitting there and he's telling Parth his opinions. Like, Reggie's kind of hit, like, the Jerry Jones level of owner, where if he could physically stand on stage and just kind of hover over behind his players and them not know he's there, but he could just kind of like oversee everything, I think he would. And
yeah,
we've got history on our side. They haven't missed an LCS final, and it's jinxing, and it's jinxing, and it's jinxing, and like Dignitas could be the team that does it because they are such a good team. but it's the early game that Dignitas really does kind of struggle with. And if you can't catch TSM off guard with like this Nunu pick, I think TSM's a better early game team. They're just as good as playing the just like hard push, we're going to apply pressure all over the map to take pressure off of Double Lift, or to take pressure off of Bjergsen, or to take pressure off of Hanser. Like, they're just as good at it, and they've been doing it longer. So yeah, this could be a good series. Like, surprise. This is either going to be a really good series, or Dignitas exploded too early, and it's going to be just a quick 3-0. Like, I don't
really
want that
don't
to
want this to be a
happen.
letdown series.
I don't
I
want
really
it to be
don't.
a letdown series. But
It feels like it's
I kind of want it to be a letdown series, so TSM just strolls into Boston, and it's like, yeah, we're good, guys.
Yeah,
I feel like
if you look at TSM's strengths, only Immortals really matches them tit for tat in that regard, which is why I have to say, as much as I hate it, I'm just waiting for TSM to announce their deal with Tye Dillinger, because they're about to make it a perfect 10. That's about to happen. And I'm not happy with it. I'm not proud of it or the joke I just made, but it's there. That's just how this goes. And I don't see there's not a single position in which you're like, oh yeah, Dignitas can just outplay at that spot. And there's not the same level of team chemistry. Someday over Hanser should be a thing.
Yeah,
I think
that's
Hanser,
what I was going to say is like, Hanser has played okay this split, but he hasn't played as well as Someday this split.
I've been underwhelmed by Hanser this split, but in every other way. And we know that TSM knows how to alleviate pressure from Hanser. He's at least not hemorrhaging in the way that like a Seraph is, It's just very hard to imagine that Dignitas out team fights the signature organization that has Bjergsen and Double Lift, and I'm feeling sick to my stomach already. I hate it. It hurts. Let's just give me the odds, Walter.
Well, before I get to the odds, Chase.
Oh no.
There's a reason I'm the Guest Alliance World Heavyweight Champion, and there's a reason I'm a heel. It's because I'm a dick. And I just want to remind you something. Karma be damned. There is a chance that this is the 10th split anniversary of the last time that TSM took on a lovable favorite underdog of Chase's. Let's just think back.
Technically, it's the 9th. It would be the 9th anniversary because that was number 1, and this is the 10th.
Oh,
split.
Shut up, Blampier! Shut up, Blampier! Shut up, Blampier!
That's hard for TSM fans, I'm sure.
Shut up, Blampier. No, 10th. This is the 10th. I'm keeping with that theme. I just want to say, good luck to the TSM fan team. I really hope that your mid laner and your jungler are talking to each other right now. I have TSM at -333.
First of all, how dare you?
I will
Second of all, how
absolutely
dare you?
invoke that.
And third of all, how dare you? And I'm stalling for time because I hate to admit that I also went -333, which means that we split the point, which means that you win the week, because that's the danger of these two series weeks. It's all, you get the one. It's not quite as bad as next week where it'll be all or nothing, but it's just about there. I had it at -333. It is TSM -238.
Criminal.
TSM had some losses this season. They actually have lost to Dignitas this season twice. That is the one thing that we did not touch upon, is that Dignitas is 4-2.
I don't know what you're talking about.
2-2-1 victories over TSM.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's just, let the record show that they are entering this week as underdogs. But as having not been the underdogs in Dignitas before. So I think that's why the line is where it is. Unfortunately, it kills value for us in several different ways. TSM -1.5 is only -105. 5 maps is +175. I'm going to throw this out there. We don't usually do too many minus odds, but Dignitas +1.5 at -125. It's a 3-2 for Dignitas wins there. Any Dignitas series victory, which, need I remind you, Dignitas has won both regular season series.
Now, pause. I want to put a pause there because, Chase, teams that have beaten TSM both times in the regular season, like Cloud9 usually did, kind of like Season 4, don't fare very well against TSM in the playoffs. I just want to
fares very well if we take TSM historically. You like by definition, by the fact that you've reached all of the finals, you've won more series than you've lost. Congratulations.
9.
Let's get into smart money bets. What are our picks? We have to pick 2 of them because these are the rules, and I've lost control of your trash talking whatever, but I will keep to that. We have rules. There's a structure in place. I believe in this. What are our 2 smart money bets? You went 0-2 last week, by the way. I just want to point out that neither of your picks came through.
Last week was wacky. I don't feel good about it. Last week was really wacky. So I'm going to take Immortals at -192 to win their series because I'm not doing well in the playoffs. So I'm going to pick that one, and I'm going to pick Dignitas at +175. No. Immortals at -1.5. The Immortals -1.5 at +115. I think that's kind of a no-brainer to me. The only way Dignitas wins the series is if it goes to 5 games. They don't win 3-1.
TSM doesn't lose 3-1. I agree with that.
They don't lose 3-1.
So we should just take 5 maps then.
I would just take 5 maps, and it's me hedging my bets because if it goes to 5 maps and Dignitas wins, I make money, and if it doesn't go to 5 maps, TSM wins. So I like it.
Look, those are 2 smart money bets. Immortals -1.5, +115 over Dignitas. 5 maps for TSM and Dignitas going to +175. I think I said Dignitas instead of CLG for the Immortals series, but you all knew what I meant.
I wish Dignitas was playing twice.
You're not wrong. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Certainly we enjoyed recording it. If you want to talk to us about anything that we said today, there is that lovely comment section underneath the video. I do try to respond to everybody who comments there. And of course, you can join us on our lovely Discord. We keep telling you guys about it. We do these VOD reviews that we love to do. We organize them together. It's not like there are YouTube clips that we hide secretly from you all. We watch games with you. You get our impressions of what's going on live. And if you want to see what it's like to be like hang out with an analyst and a former coach, we can do that. That's our thing. Only former coach for me, but still, it's a fun time. One day, Walter.
I've been a coach before.
What team?
Cognitive. It's Season 3.
You were the head coach of Cognitive?
No, I wasn't a head coach. No, I was an assistant coach analyst. That was Season 3. Coaching was kind of like a,
Yeah, I was going to say.
It was a murky word.
I was in a wild card region, so I'm not going to try to take too much. I can't tear your accomplishments down and boost mine at the same time.
Listen, I've played against former professional players in an ESL Go for LOL tournament before. I stole away from Captain Ziploc. Get off my lawn.
Man, Captain Ziploc. Shout out to the 2 people listening to this podcast who know who that is. You can find me on social media at RedShirtKing. If you want to talk to me about anything specifically I said today. Walter, where can the nice people at home find you?
You guys can find me at Ceades_LOL, and yes, I have tried to check my ESL account to see if I could find any record of any of that happening, and it doesn't exist anymore, so I'm sorry, Cloud9 fans. I'm sorry. I could have been meaner. I'll put it that way. I could have been much meaner to you guys today, but I kind of held back. I'm in a good mood today.
That is an interesting takeaway. There's nothing quite like, hey, you can't be mad at me because I could have been much worse. That is an interesting tactic to have. But you know what? We don't have to worry about Cloud9 for a couple more weeks. Well, we will be back for the finals for both North America and Europe next week. We have 2 more podcasts in that regard. The Gauntlet's going to be a little bit weird because I think it's all in one week, right? I believe they spread out all the games. So in that kind of condensed period of time so that we have that break in between worlds. So we'll have to figure out how to cover that. We'll talk to you more about that next week. But just know, just like always, North America and Europe coming, Guess the Lines episodes. I've got to start closing the gap. So let's see if I can pull that off.
4 chances to earn 2 points to tie it.
Well, we'll see how things go. Until next time, goodbye, Internet.
You can follow the Rough Drafts podcast on all your favorite social media sites: Twitter at Rough Drafts Pod, Facebook.com/Rough Drafts Pod, SoundCloud.com/Esports Rough Drafts, YouTube.com/Rough Drafts Podcast, as well as on iTunes by searching for the Rough Drafts Podcast. The Rough Drafts Podcast is supported by our lovely Patreons at patreon.com/Rough Drafts Pod and by viewers like you. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, Internet.